time a city's done that in 3 decades. So congratulations there. I'd like to also congratulate Councilmember Claire and council members-elect Allen and Frazier on the recent election. Look forward to working with you in January when you're sworn in. And then I just wanted to give my personal apologies to members of council, city staff. I missed the May meeting for my son's graduation at St. Thomas, and then I was sick at the June meeting, so I apologize. It's not my MO to miss. So, but that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. Councilman Brainerd Watson.
Good evening. I would like to just report that I went to the most recent Southwest Valley Chamber of Commerce board retreat. It was really good. It's an exciting group of people and a lot of things going on, a lot of good plans. I also wanted to just comment that we lost a good friend to the park and to the city in Max Wilson in the last month, and I'm sure most people know about that. Max passed away. He was a city council member for many years and a county board of supervisors. He will be dearly missed.
Hi, my turn.
Councilwoman Connie, would
Yeah.
you like to speak?
Well, actually excited to prepare for next week's Cities and Towns Conference, which will be my last, but always enjoy mingling with all the rest of the people in the state. I actually nominated, I'm on the West Mac board, and I nominated a program that they participated in called Digital Twins that was actually accepted. So I will be on a panel for one of those, which is always fun. I also want to compliment Matthew. I've spent a lot of time in the last few days with some Loma residents, and not one, two, three that were really impressed with your presentation that you came brought to them on the Hill. And so, you know, it's always good to hear good things, isn't it? So they were very impressed, and you did a great job up there. And thank you, because once rumor gets out, we need to squash that. Now they have facts, and so lots of and glad to be back. Summer's over, right? Glad to be back.
Well,
Close.
can I tag one thing onto that?
Absolutely.
We worked with Matthew, Ann and I both with the Historical Society, and Matthew, and I appreciate all of your efforts on our behalf and on behalf of the Historical Society as well to keep that project moving in forward motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, and kudos to Suzanne and Andrew, and of course, Ron. Hallelujah. I'm out, you're in. It's gonna be a great council.
Mr. Vice Mayor, anything to report?
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to our new council members. Welcome you aboard one of these days, come January event. The loss of Max was a big loss to community. I gave my condolences to the family. It was kind of a sad event. The League of Cities and Towns Conference is next week. So it's your last one?
My last, it's gonna be fun.
And you're buying.
You're only been to 20.
Yep, I will be there. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I don't have a report this evening. We'll go on and move on to the city manager's report on current events.
Mayor and council, my report is in your packet. I welcome questions if you have any at this time.
All right, any questions for the city manager? All right, seeing none, we will go on to the presentation. I skipped over. The computer jumped on me there. Next item of business is response to last meeting's call of community. There were comments last meeting by Mr. Peter Mahoney. Those comments were addressed once again by Mr. Williams, who reached out to Mr. Mahoney with, I think, the schedule we have on redoing the downtown lighting systems and at least taking a look at the grass. There also were a variety of comments by some residents concerning the library. The response really on the library is that there will be a public meeting on the library next month on the 19th, which is a Thursday. We have moved our regular meeting from the 18th to the 19th so that we could meet at St. Peter's community room. So there will be plenty of room for people to come and to listen to a presentation on the library and to make comments as they feel as they feel they need to about the library and about the changes that may be coming to the library. So that's next Thursday. That brings us to this meeting's call of the community. We have one request to speak from Susan Albus. Yes, please. Could you state your name and your address so we have it for the record.
My name is Susan Alves, 310 West Dorado, just down the road. What I wanted to know was when the public meeting was going to be concerning the library.
Yeah,
And you've just
September
said it.
19th.
Could you just repeat the details? It's going to be at St. Peter's,
St. Peter's,
Mhm.
6 o'clock,
6
September
a.m.
19th.
I'm sorry, what, September?
September
No.
19th, which is a
19th.
Thursday, 6 o'clock.
Okay, and are you going to be publishing this or
Yes,
letting people know?
absolutely.
Okay, right. Well, that was one thing I wanted to ask about the library, but another thing was that I've heard that the Alva Freya High School is having some sort of art centre up on the hill. Can you let us know anything about that? Because it probably would concern the library as well.
There may be some conversations about that on the 19th.
So
It's not on our agenda tonight to speak about, so I can't really respond to any issues about that. Happy to have you contact the city manager and he can explain what discussions are going on between the city and the high school district.
okay, fine. Well, that's what I was going to speak about. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for your input. Okay, next item on our agenda is presentations. First, we are going to present some new employees, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor and council, if you'll see on your agenda, we have several new employees to introduce. It's my understanding that two of them are actually here with us tonight. Randy, if you could step and recognize, please. Randy is our new city planner. He's been with us since early July. June 24th. Okay, we're glad to have him. And he's jumping right in with us. Thank you, Randy. And also we have Georgia Cox here with us. Georgia's our new aquatics coordinator. If you please stand up. Thank you. And she is brand new here with us, so she just managed to miss most of the pool season. The pool's gonna close for about a week, so she got here just in time. But that being said, we're glad to have her on staff and welcome to the team. Thank you.
Well, yeah, welcome to both of you, and welcome to all the new employees. I hope that you will find working for Litchfield Park to be a positive experience and a family atmosphere where you will enjoy your work and enjoy to seeing the fruits of that work. So thank you for joining our team. Okay, it takes us to the next item, which is recognition of the employee of the quarter. As people on the council know, I say this and probably have said it now for, I don't know, 20 years or 16 years. This is one of the most important things we do each quarter. And that is to recognize the employee who has been voted by his fellow employees as the best employee for the quarter. And in this case, we have Juan Ace Puro. Is that close, Juan? Is he here?
He's not here.
Not here. Okay. Well, then he can't call me out on it. So we'll just say that I got it perfectly. So he will receive a certificate and as a reward for his great performance, he gets to have an extra day off with pay. So it's the irony of that is still never, it escapes me, but that's what our reward is. So he works really hard and now he gets a day off. So we appreciate his efforts. We also have several proclamations. There's a proclamation concerning ovarian cancer awareness. That is in the packet and has been signed and published. And I think we have mailed that already to the person who requested requested the proclamation. So that is something obviously we all want to be aware of, that it's a great killer and it's something that strikes many families. And so we want to make sure that we keep it in our minds and understand that many people are suffering from it. We also have been requested to do a Child Support Awareness Month proclamation. I think we have Ms. O'Donnell here. Yes. Ms. O'Donnell is here to receive the proclamation. Since you're here, we'll read it. And then I think you had asked if you could have a moment to say something, and you're welcome to do so if you wish. Get the right one. Proclamation of the City of Litchfield Park. Whereas the city of Litchfield Park joins the nation in recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month and reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Arizona's families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. Whereas the state of Arizona, whereas the state of Arizona will always be committed and advocate for our children whose safety and security remains at the top of all of our minds. Whereas a child who receives emotional and financial support is more likely to feel safe and secure, and it will be better equipped with courage to be their very best in life as they move forward. Whereas the Department of Economic Security Division of Child Support Services, DCSS, is robustly committed to putting Arizona's children first and to humbly serving Arizonians with excellence, respect, integrity, and kindness, as well as being an overall champion for economic growth and opportunity. Whereas DCSS strongly advocates for parenting responsibilities because parents and children benefit when both parents are engaged with their child at every stage, regardless of the couple's marital status. Whereas DCSS recognizes the commitment of legal guardians who accept responsibilities of children in the absence of parents. Whereas strengthening individuals and families with an emphasis on fiscal responsibility promotes the safety and well-being of children, provides stability, improves the lives of children, and provides opportunities for families to be able to enhance their children's future. Whereas Child Support Awareness Month values parents' involvement in their child's lives and they value the parents who make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. Now therefore, I, Thomas L. Schoaf, Mayor of the City of Litchfield Park, Arizona, do hereby urge all citizens of Litchfield Park to observe the month of August as Child Support Awareness Month, dated the 17th day of July, 2024. So we're happy to do this proclamation to recognize the importance of child support. It is obviously very difficult for children who have no way to make money if their parents don't support them. And that means both parents. So here's the proclamation for you.
Actually, should I do the picture now? Or should I?
You can do whatever, you're in charge here.
Somebody volunteer to do a picture for me?
I bet Carter will do it. We've got a Carter right down here. I'll do it for you. Right? He's really good at pictures. Come on, don't just smile. That's extra. Come on, Carter, don't let me down.
Make sure you get the mayor's good side.
Really? Let's try to find it, huh? Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right, the next proclamation concerns the Litchfield Park Little League. As I hope most of you know, they're the all-star team from our Litchfield Park Little League group made it quite far in the Western Divisional playoffs for the Little League World Series, which is an actual world event. It was very impressive. I had the opportunity to see several of their games on TV. And they played very well and they brought a lot of pride to Litchfield Park. So we have a proclamation for them. They're not able to attend. We'll get that over to them and see if there's some of the things we can do to make the kids feel special about their achievement.
Mayor,
Yes.
they won state also before
They won the state,
they won
yeah.
state before they ever got to the regionals. So, I mean,
They had to
that
win
was
state
a
to get
big
to the
deal
regional.
for our 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah, it was a huge achievement. So we want to recognize the Little League. Next item is a recognition of the Government Finance Officers Association award that the city received. Ms. Peterson, do you have some comments or presentation about that award or not?
No, Mayor and Council, I don't have a presentation. I just wanted to make you and the council aware that we received notice of the award.
You get a plaque that you're going to hold up.
We do, well, now they just send a button with the updated year and add it to the plaque.
We get to attach our certificate button to our.
Fiscally responsible.
That's right, it's fiscally responsible, that's correct. So thank you to the finance department for the great job you guys do and keeping track of our finances and presenting those finances, you know, in accordance with the various rules that apply to us from an accounting standpoint. So thank you. All right, now we have the report section. We have the Goodyear Fire Department. Nope, there you are. You're hiding on me down back behind there.
Hiding, that's usually where you'll find me, where you won't. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Ed Paul, Deputy Chief of the Goodyear Fire Department. I have fire department activity reports for both June and July for you tonight. Starting in June, we ran a total of 90 calls. In that 90 calls, 70 of them were EMS calls. One was a fire on the dock by the lake. 9 vehicle accidents, 5 canceled en routes, and 4 fire lane malfunctions. Our community / crisis response unit responded to 1 incident, one of the EMS incidents. Fire prevention did 4 plan reviews, 4 construction permits, 58 occupancy inspections, excuse me. La Loma and Hacienda, we usually talk about separately. La Loma had 19 calls for service in June. 16 of those were transported to a medical facility. 3 of those were falls, and the falls got transported. Hacienda had 8 total calls for service. 7 of them were transported, and 2 of those were falls.
So all of the calls at the Loma, all 19 were transported?
16 were transported.
16, all right.
For June, it was 90 calls. That was up 16 from May and up 21 from June of 2023. So a slight increase. But now we move to July, that had a total of 83 calls. That's 7 down from June and 10 down from July previous year. No idea why they fluctuate so much. In that 83 calls, 69 of them were EMS calls. 3 were fires, vehicle fire, trash can fire, and a tree fire. 3 hazmat calls. 2 of those were gas leaks. Another one was an acid and chlorine mixture that filled up the building. I don't know if you guys, we can get you more information on that if you're interested. 2 vehicle accidents, 2 canceled on scenes, and 2 fire alarm malfunctions. The crisis response unit responded to 6 incidents. Fire prevention did 11 occupancy inspections. La Loma had 25 calls for service. 21 of those were transported. Only 1 of them was a fall and did not get transported. Hacienda had 6 total calls for service. 2 of them were transported, but 4 of the 6 were falls. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Why does the fire department have to show every time somebody's transported? Is there a level that they have to reach for transport for the fire department to show? Or
I only provide those to you so you're aware that, you know, we're not going there just for pick somebody up, put them in their chair, anything like that. So there's.
I'm just questioning, if they're calling for an ambulance to take them to the hospital, does the fire department need
Yeah.
to show, or do they show in every one of those?
Yeah.
Is that because the ambulance doesn't have personnel, the qualified personnel that the fire department has?
No, they have qualified people, but there's only 2 people on an ambulance. Sometimes when you get there, it's not really what was called in. Somebody could have difficulty breathing by the time we get there. Their heart isn't beating, so now we do our 4-person pit crew to start CPR on them, get them packaged. The ambulance gets there. We just put them in the ambulance. Most of our guys jump in the back and go to the hospital while they're working on the patient. So it's really a manpower thing.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for your service to our community and thanks for coming down here and spending a little time with us this evening.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And now our Avondale Litchfield Park Police Report.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I'm Jonathan Martin, Assistant Chief of Police Department here. First, I'd like to introduce somebody, one of our newest members of the Litchfield Avenue Police Department, if you don't mind. This is Thomas Alt. He is replacing Manny Wheels, was the lieutenant that was overseeing Litchfield Park really since the inception that we took over services for you folks. Brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. Traffic, he was a traffic officer for a long time, he was a SWAT officer with narcotics, so he has a lot of experience and knowledge that he'll bring to the community and help us with whatever needs we have, especially traffic. So.
Wow, that experience is gonna be bored here.
I think Litchfield and Campbell.
Okay.
I think we can find things for him if he's wants to help on traffic.
Yes, we'll find something for.
Welcome.
I apologize. I don't have the June stats with me. I left them in my office. I was looking through them. I apologize. I can get those for you. I do have July stats for us for the law enforcement report. In July, we had 238 calls for service. We conducted 25 speed zone details and 54 welfare check, or I'm sorry, 54 business checks. Additionally, we had 6 flock alerts in the month of July. Some of the highlighted ones, one was a stolen license plate that our officers located the vehicle in the city, contacted that person in the vehicle. Unfortunately, they didn't know that their plate was switched. So someone had taken off their plate and put on this plate, which was stolen. We let them know and make sure that they were aware and they can rectify that with the MVD. We did have another flock vehicle, stolen vehicle, which our officers located actually here in this parking lot. The vehicle was stolen by, it was reported stolen. The person driving it was a family member, contacted the owner of the vehicle, and they didn't know their family member was driving their vehicle. So we took that out of the system for them. So we did have a missing person that was up off of Amarillo and Escondido Drive. We located this person was reported missing through some of the officers' investigations and utilization of flock, which is a wonderful tool. Silver Alert was entered in the system, in the statewide alert system for this person. With flock, they were able to locate where the vehicle's last location was, and the next early night hours, we were able to locate that individual, get them home safe to their family, and solve the missing person. So without the use of flock, it would have been a lot more difficult to locate this person. So again, another great tool and resource that flock provides us. Our officers did conduct 25 speed zone details. And we had 0 school zone details because school was out of service, but now with school back in service now, our officers are focusing a lot on Litchfield School and then Millennium up here by the village with the no parking issue or signs in the neighborhood. So we're focusing a lot on that. So. You have any questions for me?
Questions from council? So James.
There's a lot of chatter in the community about the golf cart that was stolen from behind Old Pueblo. And I know that happened, I believe it was right around the 1st of August.
Yes.
So maybe that doesn't detail this month, but I was curious if you could comment on that.
I'll comment a little bit because we're actually working it as of this evening. Our guys are still working on some leads, and I seen if we can identify where it was taken to. Again, with some of the cameras and the businesses over here next door, we're able to get a vague description, really a silhouette of a person. The golf cart did not leave through any of our flock locations, so we believe it either left one of the tunnels. But we do have some good leads that we're following up on. I'd love to tell you more later, but I don't want to spoil it.
Ongoing investigation.
Ongoing investigation.
Any other questions or comments?
Comment.
Yes, please, Joyce Mayor.
The location of a vehicle with the plates have been swapped and some innocent person has a stolen plate seems like kind of a minor thing for us to pick up in the flock. I think it's actually a major thing because one of our citizens was to get caught outside our jurisdiction, some other state or something with a stolen license plate in the back of their car. Could be a major event for a while before they could be held up for a while trying to get through that. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate the way you guys handle those.
We've learned through trial and error that just because the plate says it's stolen doesn't necessarily mean that that person stole the vehicle. Yeah. So we, as opposed to doing a stop on somebody who was a, you know, violent criminal, we make sure we verify and check the plate in the bin to,
Yeah.
so you don't have those incidents.
I know in the first few months you changed your
So,
procedure for stopping
yes.
possible stolen vehicles.
Yes, yes, we do.
Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you for your service and your men's service, men and women's service to our community. We appreciate it. And thanks for coming down and spending a little time with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to our monthly finance report. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I have the finance report for July. Sales tax for the month of July was just down 1% over July of last year. You'll see online sales was down 40%, but last year was it was an unusually large month. Restaurant and bars were down 9%. Utilities were up 10, and then our all other category was up 37, so a net to just less, or just 1% below July of last year. And then our construction sales tax was down 27% over last year. Moving on to the general fund. Our total revenue received through July is just over 1.3 million, or 8% of our budget. And we are at 8% of the fiscal year, so we're right on target. I do have to apologize for the report that's in your packet. I made a mistake that I realized today when I was getting ready for the meeting, and I had the fines revenue at 24,000, and that's actually should be 0. We haven't collected any yet. So I'll send that final report to Terry for the permanent record. Our expenses are 1,147,587 through the end of July. We're at 9% of our total expenses, but the first month of the year, we have some large one-time expenses that we pay at the beginning of the year. So this should smooth out as the year goes on. So total, our revenue over expenses through July is just under 172,000. And the detail for rec, special events, and our special revenue funds is in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions for Ms. Peterson?
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment that it was amazing as I was looking at this, how, with 8% of our year elapsed, how many of our funds or counts, whatever you want to call them, were at 8% or 9%. And I think that's indicative of some really good budgeting and good input from data that we're using. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you for your report. Now we have a section of reports that are from our staff, including capital improvements, contamination, loan report, special projects update, and magistrate court. If you have any questions, staff is here to respond to those questions with the exception of the magistrate court. Yes, Councilman James.
Questions for Mr. Dranaski. Just wanted to be clear because the get asked about it a lot in the community. Just so the Dysart Indian School intersection, you're looking at first 2 weeks of September is, if I read the reports correctly.
Councilman James, yeah, so we actually today entered the contract with the contractor and we're gonna be getting a schedule, so we anticipate the start time around mid-September. You'll see crews out there doing some potholing to check for utility depth.
And what's the timeline for completion on that project?
I'm gonna get a capital or a CPM project schedule from them, but I would anticipate that's roughly about a 60 to 70 day project overall.
Okay. Second question, the Camelback Park. So it looks like the, I guess we're calling it a parking lot, but the way that we're going to build the parking stalls. So that's like in October, November.
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, I spoke to the consultant today. So we should be getting 90% plans anytime soon. Once those are vetted, and we'll have a contractor look at it for a price and get a construction schedule, but it should go pretty quick, and October is pretty feasible.
And is that going to impact youth sports at Camelback Park?
One of our mandates is for them to try to keep their construction zone as small as possible, but inevitably it will impact the area.
And then just last, and then the wall is just kind of still to be determined.
Yes, sir. So capital projects are being rearranged based on funding. And I think that we will finish design this year and we'll have to evaluate when to go to construction. We have to, really a lot of things are predicated on how fast and how far we can get with the Litchfield Square project before we can make the decision on when to move towards construction on the wall.
Copy. And are the speed bumps on Villanueva going in with the parking stall
Yes, sir.
construction? Okay. That's all I got.
All of our capital projects are being looked at carefully for scheduling because we have state imposed limitations on how much we can spend every year. And we bump up against that because of all the spending we've done on Litchfield Square to get that project going and some of the other large projects that are here. So it makes us be very careful with our capital projects. So we schedule them so that we can work on them during the year when we can still spend the money. It's not a matter of having the funds. We have the funds in the banks to do these projects, but we can't spend those funds because of state limitations.
I think it's by and large, the bigger questions from the citizens just sort of timeline. Just when's it gonna happen?
We're working on a lot of them, and a lot of them you'll see will actually get started right at the beginning of the next fiscal year, which will be July.
And then I had a question for Mr. Proch.
Okay, he's here and
Thank you.
ready, willing, and able
Nice
to
haircut.
answer your question.
Keith, nice haircut, by the way. Hi, and welcome again. It was nice to meet you at the last DRB meeting. I just, one of the comments that came out at the last DRB meeting, which I just wanted to know if you'd made any progress on, was the pathway behind the houses on Old Litchfield. There's a pathway that walks down through there, just the wall inconsistencies. That was a case that came forward to the committee. Was some walls are at this height, some walls are at this height, and just what's the steps that get taken? Because it does seem like that is a high traffic area, and you know, the lady who came to the presentation was following the rules, but there's clearly walls that aren't. So.
Mayor Shove, Councilmember James, good evening. Randy Proch, your city planner, planning director, special projects manager, aware of many hats. It is week 8, and I will do my best to answer your question and any other questions that may come up. Regarding that particular request at the DRB, as of today, there's a sign on that property for the next Board of Adjustment hearing, which will be happening in the first week of September. She will be going through that process in order to acquire a variance. For a bit of background for the rest of council, the pathway requires view fencing so that as you walk the pathway, you have eyes on that pathway. It's a safety measure. Those requirements have been in place since 2007. A majority of the houses, as mentioned on Old Litchfield Road, were constructed and had walls constructed before 2007. So most of the area does have a solid wall. In this case, because it is now after 2007, she is requesting to go through a variance procedure to see if she can match the existing conditions around it.
Is there ever a plan, or maybe it's for Matthew, is there ever really a thought, or is that kind of overreaching about getting the walls to be uniform along the back there so that?
Yeah, getting them uniform will require something that causes the landowner to have to rebuild the wall. So as long as the wall is standing and in good shape, then it's a non-conforming prior use that just gets to stay.
This stays, so there's nothing that.
There's nothing the city is going to do about that. There have been some discussions about looking at that pathway to see if there are ways to make that pathway better. It could use some work back there and some landscaping and things like that, but getting the walls to all be the same is not, it's just not gonna happen just anytime soon.
Going forward, anybody that comes forward is gonna have to follow that.
Or go through a variance and build another wall that's not conforming. I assume that's what she's asking to do.
She has requested a variance application. It is up to the Board of Adjustment and the 4 required state statute limitations about how a variance is issued.
So if she gets the variance, then she'll have another solid wall. It won't be a view wall. So,
Just curious how that works, so, thanks, thank you.
okay, any other comments or questions? All right, thank you very much, Randy. That takes care of the report section and takes us up to the consent agenda, item 9. We have consent items 9A through K. Is there anyone on council who wishes to take any item off of the consent agenda for further discussion?
Can I ask just a quick question?
Uh,
Before without taking it off?
go ahead. Okay, the city attorney is going to allow you a special dispensation.
What's the purpose of the Burger King lot split? Why are we doing that?
That really wasn't a quick question.
It's a dispensary. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor,
They-
the
they-
story cannabis came through DRB. It got approved through DRB and it's part of the stipulations. They do have to split the lot.
Okay. So good thing we have industrial zoning, we have this located where it's located and not next to the wigwam.
Correct.
That's right. Perfect.
Okay, are you satisfied?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt consent agenda items 9A through K?
I'll move.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the consent items are adopted. First item of business is a presentation by Stiefel from Mr. Ford concerning capital management services. What's that?
Good evening, Mayor. Can you hear me? My name is Tim Ford. I work for Stiefel in Phoenix office off Camelback Road in 28th Street. I am a financial advisor and I am the relationship manager for Stiefel between Litchfield Park and Stiefel Capital Management. And tonight I'm here to discuss possible strategies for investment of funds of Litchfield Park into a short-term treasury bond portfolio. So tonight I'd just like to talk a little bit about Stiefel, move on to Stiefel Capital Management and how that sits within the organization, then talk about our investment solution. Monthly reports are included, the page is already getting now, but we can provide copies of those, and then our fee structure. So Stiefel's been around for about 130 years. We're based in St. Louis with offices all over the United States. We have about $400 billion in management with about 100 years of public sector experience. So it's a very broad-based investment bank. Stiefel Capital Management was formed in 2023 to provide investment services for nonprofits and municipalities such as Litchfield Park. And this just shows you our commitment on the public finance side. We're the one underwriter and negotiated bond deals for the last 10 years. Stiefel Capital Management sits between public finance and So Stiefel Capital Management is uniquely positioned to leverage off our public finance relationships. They allow us to get a better understanding of what each client is looking to do. And then we come up with portfolio construction and investment objectives for our clients and then customize each portfolio for them. And this is just kind of further on that. We are a full service broker dealer. We have trading desks that are dedicated, especially on the fixed income side. And then on the public finance side, we sit in between the two. We work with their clients to provide access to the full service broker dealer. And then just talking about Stiefel Capital Management, go ahead, next one page. So the overview of Stiefel Capital Management, we were formed last year in early 2023. In the 18 months we've been in business, we're managing about $4 billion for corporations, municipalities, and nonprofits. You can switch to the next one page. So we offer customized portfolio solutions for each one of our clients. So there's not just a broad, we customize each portfolio based on everybody's objectives. And Adam Topalian sits in New York. He's the Chief Investment Officer for Stiefel Capital Management. He has over 40 years of experience. He's a very valuable asset for the firm. He helps come up with the strategies on where to invest along the curve for our clients based on any objectives or liquidity needs they may have. So right now, the way we look at this is a short duration fixed income portfolio. We currently manage several $1 million for Litchfield Park. And this is just additional monies that that may be invested. So you can look at it as a bucket strategy. You have a liquidity bucket, a short-term bucket, and a strategic bucket, and they're just based on maturities. The liquidity bucket is maturities from overnight to 90 days. A short-term bucket, 91 to 365, and then a strategic bucket, 1 to 5 years. Clients can choose all three. They can do 1, 2, or 3. They can do 1 and 2. It just depends on what the liquidity needs and any investment concerns that the client has. And in each one of these buckets, we have access to all the typical fixed income products. In this particular case, we'll be focusing on short-term U.S. Treasuries. So current market conditions right now, as we know that the Federal Reserve has been hiking rates up until last year. And now the market is anticipating that the Fed is going to start cutting rates in September. So the next meeting, the market is priced in 25 to 50 basis point cut, and then several more cuts throughout till the end of the year to take us down about 75 basis points. And then next year, current market predictions, another 125 basis points worth of cuts. So overall, the next year and 4 months, we're looking at another 175 to 200 basis points of cuts from the Fed funds, which are currently at 5.25, taking us down to about 3.25. So here's just kind of the current yield environment. If you look at this graph here, the maturity starts off at 6 months and we took it out to 30 years. That's not applicable. We just wanted to show you what the yield curve looked like. For this purposes, we'll only focus on U.S. Treasuries for Litchfield Park. They're the safest investment in fixed income. So you can see here how the curve goes. 6 month is yielding 4.9%, 1 year 4.6, and 2 years, I think it says 4. Can't see it from here. And as you go to the right, you take on a little bit more risk. U.S. agencies in the next column. So with risk, you get a little better yield. And if you keep going further right, you go into corporate bonds, and you can see the yield pick up there. And so here, we just took $6 million and talking with Paige as a number for us to consider to invest for you guys. It can be more, it can be less. This is just kind of what we were talking at the time. We put together a short-term portfolio here of U.S. Treasury securities, and you can see how they ladder out. I think the final maturity is early 2026, so about 1.5 years final maturity. And if you look at this, I think the portfolio yield is 4.19%, and it would spit off estimated investment earnings of $247,000. Again, this is customizable. If you want to go longer on the curve, we can do that. We can tell you the risk and reward of that, or we can go shorter. But we just thought, given where the yield curve is now, this would be a good use of the funds to place it along the curve in this fashion. And then here, this is kind of a cash flow analysis of when you have a maturity, what happens? You get interest, you get your principal, and then that goes over into your cash balance. We've been working with Litchfield Park on drawdown schedules, so we match up the maturities with drawdowns. This would be just a case of showing you when your maturities come off, and then you guys can have the money. You do what you want with it. You could take some of it, you could take all of it, or we could reinvest it for you. And that's something that we would work with Paige on. And then our fees are generally 25 to 30 basis points. We've got a long relationship with Litchfield Park. We're working for 20 basis points on this particular investment strategy. And that's it.
The concept here is to approve opening a relationship with you, and then we'll work through these different structures to see what is appropriate for, I mean, whether that $6 million needs to be on the shorter term investments or not is something we need to discuss, but that's something we would do in the future, correct?
Yes.
Any questions or comments from council? This is, Paige, I'm glad to see you moving this along. This is something we've been working on for several years to try to get our investable cash into a place where it actually works and makes money for us. For many, many years, we were spending money to keep our cash because the bank would charge us to have it in the bank. Some of that's because the interest rates are low, and some of that was just because the banks are very, the way they deal with customers is not very friendly. So we've gotten a long way. I think our investment earnings this year are $1 million roughly. $1.5 million. $1.5 million. So that's from zero. So Paige has done a really good job getting these relationships set up, but I'm happy to hear that you come in and present this to us. And I personally am very much in favor of moving forward with a structured process to make sure that we invest our cash in the best possible way to serve our residents. So if there are no other questions, is there a motion to direct staff to enter into negotiations for an agreement with Stifel to manage our capital?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was that a second from what? Councilman Blair?
It's loud second.
Sorry?
It's a big loud second.
Yeah, it's good. All right, any further discussion?
Question.
Question, yes.
Paige, is the intent to take the funds that maybe this is the mayor, that we typically have set aside reserves and to invest them?
Yes, it's our restricted fund balance.
And how does this compare with what the pool is doing?
The pool is doing pretty well. It's at 5%. It reacts to the market. So when the interest rates, if the Fed really does reduce interest rates next month, it responds to that immediately. So investing longer term will protect from those rate cuts.
We have at least 6 million, maybe a little bit more than that we literally are not going to use for a long, long time. And so even what you've presented is too short for that 6% probably. But those are the conversations that you and Paige have to have so that we put it in what's appropriate. Because that's money that's in permanent reserve. It's not,
right.
We're not intending to use it anytime soon. So it's to look at that and try to structure all that cash in a way that we get the best return. If it's not any better than the state, then there's no reason to move it. But I think there will be. That's why they're in businesses. They are able to do a little bit better.
Is the state money like in a daily money market or something, or it reacts daily or monthly, or do we know?
I could perhaps answer that. So the LGIP is what we're talking about. So LGIP is a money market fund. It just has a different wrapper on it. And so that reacts to daily changes in whatever's happening in the market. So currently it's at 5 and it's a floating rate. So tomorrow, let's just say in whatever 3 weeks and they cut rates 25 basis points, that's going to react. And as they continue to do that, that will continue to react. And if the market's calling for 200 basis points of cuts over the next year, you might be looking at LGIP at 3.25. So we lock in the rates. Ours is a fixed rate portfolio that's floating. There's nothing wrong with having some portion of your cash in floating. It's just kind of a hedge to say, hey, look, rates could be going down. We're better off locking in some rates now versus waiting for it to react.
Got it.
Yeah, we have enjoyed the benefit of the rates going up. And so making money on our money has been very easy. But now as rates start coming down, we don't want to get caught in the same situation we were at 5 years ago where it was costing us money just to hold this money.
Right.
Councilman James.
Sir, you mentioned you mentioned money market. Does that operate like a traditional money market where you can have access to those funds in a set period, or is it invested in like 24 hours you can request and receive?
Are you talking about LGIP or just the money market fund in general?
The money.
The state, the LGIB, we
Okay.
can request it and get it the next day. So it is just like a bank account or
Right.
operating.
These funds we will not be able to get the next day. But a lot of our funds, we don't ever need the next day.
Right.
And that's the idea is to get the portion that we don't need access to immediately or in a very short period of time to get it into something with a longer term so that we have some protection against the rates coming down.
But if God forbid something happened, an emergency and you needed access, you'd have access.
Yeah, I mean, we've got enough cash that this is money that we should not ever need. We'll know it a long time beforehand that we're gonna need it and we'll deal with it then.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we'll negotiate an agreement with Stifel and move forward.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Next item is a discussion of a golf cart restriction ordinance 24-282. Mr. Williams, you have a presentation.
Mayor and council, just a reminder what this ordinance does. This ordinance would restrict golf carts on Litchfield and Camelback Road. It would require them, they can be used on pathways. Of course, they can be used on pathways today, but they could also be used on sidewalks to connect pathways as needed. And also it could make it so that golf carts could use crosswalks, so they could safely cross Litchfield Road and cross Camelback Road. As you know, long-term, we eventually want to have a pathway system where you can go along all our major roads via pathways, but we're just not there yet. But again, this way they could go through sidewalks, they go through crosswalks as needed. But most importantly, in my opinion, it would prevent golf carts legally from being on Litchfield Road or Camelback Road. Just as a reminder, they're already restricted to Dysart today because Dysart's a 45. And golf carts are allowed, of course, in Litchfield Greens Village, Sunset Terrace, and within the walls, because all those streets are under 35. Welcome questions if there are any at this time.
I have a question. One of the things that we had talked about over the months when when staff has been working on this ordinance is to have some justification for making a change. My personal philosophy is that you don't adopt new laws if you don't have some reason to adopt them. So I had wanted to find out, I don't know of any particular issues we've had on Litchfield or Camelback where there have been accidents or somebody hurt or some near misses or there have been tickets issued. And I know that that if you go to Sun City West, you've got a tremendous number of golf carts that are on roads like Camelback and Litchfield Road that are 35 mile an hour, but multi-lane roads. And I don't remember hearing about any particular issues up in the Sun City West area. So I'm just curious, did staff look into this at all before we got through drafting this?
I don't know of any incidents around Camelback or Litchfield. You may remember there was an incident some months ago on Dysart, but of course there were other factors
Yeah,
involved.
that's a different, it's on Dysart, which is 45, and that's an issue of DUI.
Yeah, there were other issues there that wouldn't be in play here. I would tell you, no, sir, there haven't been any accidents that I know of yet on Litchfield or Camelback. I do know there are golf carts being driven on Litchfield, and I've seen them myself on Camelback.
Have we had a number of residents come in and ask us to do something about those golf carts?
I've had some people bring this concern up to me. I've also had residents actually tell me their plan to slow down trucks is to use their golf cart on Litchfield Road.
Questions or
I've been
comments?
told that also,
Yeah.
by them.
Natural selection.
Yes.
I have a problem adopting rules and regulations over people's lives where we're legislating something that is not today a problem that has manifested itself beyond we're just kind of concerned about this. So,
And if I could, Mayor, I think part of the concern being is that with the recent speed limit change from 45 to 35 on Litchfield and Camelback, that people are still traveling in excess of 35. And with the golf carts, they're statutorily limited to 25. So if you throw a 25 mile an hour golf cart, even on Camelback, even with a speed limit of 35, if you've got vehicles that are still going 45, 50 miles an hour, it creates that potential. And I think that was part of the concern, is that because of having such a recent change, and the state statute recognizes this to a certain extent, but it says greater than 35. So it allows for those golf carts to be on those roadways that are up to 35, even though a golf cart is statutorily limited maximum speed of 25.
but most of our golf carts that are not on the golf course go significantly faster than 25. They all go at least 30 and a lot of them are 35 and even maybe 40, but 35 is not even unusual. But my concern is that we're drafting a rule to save a resident who's using a golf cart in a reasonable way from somebody who's breaking the law by speeding, instead of going after the guy that's speeding and stopping the speeding. I mean, it seems like we're regulating the person who's not breaking the law because we're worried about the impact of somebody who might break the law. And why don't we go after the guy that is speeding? That's the bottom line. And that's what we want. We want the cars to slow down.
But I think it's a multi-pronged approach, because the PD they are trying to enforce the lower speed limits, the 35 with, you've got the signs out there with the notifications trying to get people to slow down. But when you have, that historical speed limit of 45, it takes time, and I think the concern being is the potential of an accident. You have an accident between a car and a golf cart, you're looking at substantial injuries as
Car's gonna
opposed to.
win.
Yeah.
Councilman James.
Well, sir, I just had a few, thanks, Mayor. I had a couple questions or comments, I guess, here is, one, I have not seen a golf cart on Camelback. The way that the majority of those people, they drive along the ditch north of Camelback. They swing out on the Camelback briefly to hit the turn lane and then they pull in on the middle of the way. But so they cross Camelback in a very quick manner there. Most of the people coming from west of Litchfield Road, will come down the pathways, use the tunnel, across there. So and to the speed of the golf carts, I mean, most golf carts are right at around 29 or 30 miles an hour, and the newer golf carts with the lithium batteries are now upwards of 33, 34 miles an hour too. Wigwam Boulevard, west of Litchfield Road, is that our road?
No,
That's not our road. So hypothetically, say a Litchfield resident who lives down, by Millennium decides to pull out onto Wigwam and they go 35 miles an hour in their golf cart down there. And then they could make a left-hand turn. Well, that's illegal now. You can't. So that's what we're saying is you can drive, it's a little confusing if
Yeah,
you're.
Goodyear has not seen fit to restrict golf carts on Wigwam Boulevard, which is 35-mile-an-hour 4-lane road. And it's been 35 for a long time.
We have a cart path along there, don't we?
There's pathway.
No, there's a sidewalk.
8-foot sidewalk.
Wide
there.
sidewalk.
Yeah, very wide sidewalk.
And maybe on the one side.
I kind of with you. It seems like seems just like a little bit of an overreach of the council and the government to enforce rules on citizens where I don't know, when somebody gets into a wreck in a golf cart on Camelback and gets hurt, then.
If I could make one comment on that, I think one thing we're missing here is that before we changed the speed limits on Litchfield and Camelback Road to 35, they weren't legally allowed there.
Correct.
Because the roads before that were 45, so before we changed the speed limits, they weren't legal to be on Litchfield or Camelback Road. But now because we dropped the speed limit, they are legal now.
Yeah.
So that it's an interesting complication of dropping the speed limit is now they're legal for golf cart use. This ordinance obviously, if passed, would stop that. For me personally, I can't imagine driving a golf cart on Camelback. I think that's crazy, but people do it, As far as I know, no one has been hurt yet. I'm not saying it won't happen. And I certainly see both your points as overreach. Again, I just can't imagine doing it. I think there's pathways that people can use, there's crosswalks people can use, but it's certainly a council decision.
the two roads we're talking about have a lot of traffic incidents. And the fact that a golf cart is no match for a vehicle, I think we are called upon to do what we can to protect people sometimes from themselves. And that I would think is what we're trying to accomplish here.
All right, any other comments
Before
before
motion to adopt or a motion to introduce?
I think it's to adopt.
Adopt, sir.
We introduced it on the meeting, the idea that it would come forward when we make a decision on it. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Is there any reason for Litchfield residents to drive a golf cart on Camelback?
Just across.
Just to go across it?
A lot-
There's no reason we got so many paths and other ways in the tunnel and.
Except if they live where Matthew does. Then
They can come down the cart path if they want, but that's the point, is our residents are dealing with this issue right now and we're not having a problem with it. So why are we changing the rule? I mean, they're figuring it out, they get on, they use their golf cart and however they decide it's best for them. And so far, at least, I don't see a groundswell that says that we need to change that.
Is it getting from your subdivision, is there a cart path all the way?
There's a pathway down Litchfield Road, so.
Yeah, and they go right to the stoplight and they
And
cross.
they go right behind your house and they come on the Bird Lane.
Yeah, as long as we don't put that
Okay.
right turn.
But this is a change that would make, right now, they can't legally use crosswalks. If this was passed, they could now use crosswalks to cross Camelback and across Litchfield.
We had this legally used crosswalk argument 10+ years ago, and we changed an ordinance somewhere to make it legal to use crosswalks, or make it illegal to cross streets in golf carts when our paths cross the streets.
We did that because of the wigwam.
Yeah. And so Did anybody ever find that? Joe, did you see that someplace else in one of our ordinances?
Not that I can recall.
Doesn't mean it wasn't done, we just don't.
Yeah, we had that argument 10, 15, maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm happy to support, adding it, doing an ordinance that says you can put a golf cart, use the crosswalk. I'm fine with that, I mean, because that says that's being done today.
Yes.
And it should not be illegal.
It used to be illegal and we changed it. And it's been
I remember us
decades
doing
ago.
that.
You know, it's been a long time ago. We had lengthy arguments on how to do it. We also argued at the time, what was a golf cart, whether it could have a motor, whether it could only be electric, but had a top speed of 25 miles an hour. And we agreed it could be electric with a top speed of 25 miles an hour.
We got
Use the
in
gas.
the weeds, didn't we?
We got in the weeds. And we're doing it again.
Yeah.
I think you guys have been here long enough to remember this, right?
I don't know, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better if it's forgotten.
With this, I don't see a reason. I mean, we prohibited golf carts on Litchfield Road and Camelback before. I don't see a reason why we don't continue to prohibit them on Litchfield Road and Camelback.
Okay.
It's a danger to the guys in the golf carts. It's a danger to the people in the cars. If there's an accident, it's a waste of resources.
Councilman Claire, do you have any comments?
I feel like you and Justin, I feel like we're over legislating something and agree that the speed limit has been dropped. As I drive Camelback and Litchfield now, the signs are flashing, people are hitting their brakes, they're paying attention to the speed limit, they're trying. A lot of people are starting to pay attention to the change in the speed limit. So I just feel like we're making something that's not needed at this point. There's pathways that go up and down Litchfield. The only concern I have is the legality of using the crosswalk coming across Camelback for Sunset Terrace coming down into Old Litchfield. That's the only thing I have a concern on. I'm not overly worried about them being on Camelback or Litchfield. I just don't see that happening a lot and think we're making something out of nothing.
Councilman Watson.
I agree that our attempt to regulate speeds and drop them has worked to some extent. But every time I'm on that road, I'm passed by someone going 10 to 15 miles faster than I am. And I'm the proverbial little old lady from Sin City who drives the exact speed limit. I drive everybody around me crazy, but laws are there for a reason.
You don't drive your golf cart there, right?
I do not have a golf cart. I don't have a garage to park it in, or not have a garage. But I also think we've got a more complicated traffic pattern and are anticipating a more complicated pattern with the roundabouts. And it seems that there are enough people who get caught up in the roundabouts who still don't know what to do with them, or who come way over. We almost got sideswiped the other day by someone who didn't realize that there are 2 lanes and you have to maintain both of them. And I just think, coming back to a golf cart's not gonna win any kind of conflict anywhere there. And there's no negative. We're not making it so they can't get from A to B. They still can. We're just saying, take the safer route.
Oh, sorry.
You have something to say?
Actually, my question is really how are we gonna enforce it? That's gonna be, I mean, if our officers are there, they're probably gonna enforce speeding more so than the golf cart. That one I think is tricky because I don't think it does happen very often. But there is a conversation about potentially if the library goes up there and bringing the golf carts, as an option to get there. But then maybe there's a tunnel, who knows?
To me, it's if we find there's a problem, then we should address it at the time when we find
Not
a
now.
clear problem. Yeah, anticipating problems, I think, is a bad thing on the part of government. So.
And I would, too, Mr. Mayor, I'm assuming the fences are still coming down around the city center first couple of weeks of, Labor Day was the target.
It'll be depends on the park. So the streets will be done at the end of September, sir.
So I, just, as you look forward to this, hypothetically, those fences come down, we're a golf cart community, a lot of people will drive their golf carts, we have we'll have buildings in there, we'll have maybe food truck festivals, things like that.
And you're
Now
not
you're-
gonna use a roundabout.
That's what I'm saying, so that, but now to regulate, you're not supposed to use the
You
roundabout.
won't be able to use a
So now you're
roundabout.
telling,
People
say,
are gonna.
say we,
Huh?
say we have
People are doing it.
yeah.
Absolutely, they're gonna use that roundabout. I mean, that's part of the reason it's there.
So now you send, let's say 50 golf carts that live west of Litchfield Road, and now you're gonna send all of them through the tunnel on the red course, right through Cache, or you know what I mean, down that sidewalk. I know we're beating a dead horse, but I don't see it.
All right, anything else to add to this conversation?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Romack is on the call as well, sir.
Councilor Romack, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Do you have a comment on this ordinance that you would like to make?
My only comment is I would like to be in front of the problem instead of behind it.
Okay,
That's all.
all right. If there's no further comments, then is there a motion to adopt ordinance 24-282 on golf cart restrictions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of
If
the,
we could do a roll call since it's an ordinance.
all right, we can do a roll call since it's an ordinance. Ms. Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
Sure. Councilmember Claire,
Nay.
Councilmember Romack,
Yes.
Councilmember Brainerd Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Donahue,
Yes.
Councilmember James, Vice Mayor Faith.
Tie break.
Know how the mayor's gonna vote, yeah.
Mayor Shaw.
Nay.
It passes 4-3.
All right, so it passes 4-3, and we'll move forward. Next item is the adoption of an ordinance on backyard fowl.
So many jokes.
Any,
So
do you have a presentation on fowl or not?
No, sir, I do not have a foul presentation at this time,
Surprised you aren't chicken to do that joke.
right? Mayor and council, just as a reminder, this law or this ordinance is needed because the state law has recently changed. This does limit what chickens can, how they can have in their backyard, how they can be kept, so on and so forth. Again, this is a required change because of recent changes in the state law. Welcome any questions if there are any at this time.
I have just a quick one.
Is there any, Councilman Brandon Watson?
Joe, HOA says no chickens, but state law now says you can. What does that do to HOA law?
The HOA still controls because that's a contractual agreement between the owners of the property. This just applies to overall, just general, ownership of
Everybody
property,
else.
anything that wouldn't be covered under an HOA, because an HOA can be much more restrictive than a property that's not within an HOA.
Thank you.
Any other questions or further discussion? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 24-284 concerning backyard fowl related to House Bill 2325?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just introduction or adoption?
Adoption.
Adoption.
This is a, you don't have any choice in this matter, but you get to vote on it if you'd like to. The state legislature has already decided this.
This will need to be a roll call vote too.
Should we have, for clarity and purpose for the citizens, a sentence that says, as Councilwoman Watson brought up, that this doesn't apply to HOAs? The ordinance, the state statute, as I read it, doesn't. I mean, it says it only applies to municipalities, but should we make it clear to our citizens or read it that they can't get away with this just because if the HOA prohibits it?
It's okay with me. It's okay with, to add that in,
We
Mr.
can add it in, but I mean, there's a lot of city
Doesn't mean
code that's out there that doesn't apply to, or have HOA restrictions that are much more restrictive than what the city code is.
I'm just wondering if our citizens are gonna see this and go, wow, I can, in the place where the HOAs are quite strong, start moving chickens in.
The
Find out
HOA
there's
will
an
deal
issue.
with it.
Yeah.
Selling eggs.
Any further discussion?
I just have a quick question. Could our status as a, what type of city are we? in?
Charter.
Sorry, charter, lost that word. Can you believe that? As a charter city, does that impact our ability to either say, no, we don't want this, or?
Yes, ma'am, it does, because when they passed this law, they include wording that it was of a statewide concern. How chickens are a statewide concern, I don't know, but
Just
That does away with our charter language.
It just means that charter cities are not exempt from this rule because because the rule is of statewide concern.
correct.
Charter city could still contest it and litigate it but I think the legislature is probably looking at this, who's going to take the time and expense to litigate against
Well,
it.
Litchfield vote.
We've got other issues with using our charter city for.
No, I was just curious
yeah.
about
This
this.
could be our first charter city issue though.
Yeah, no, it can't.
It would give us something to know about.
Yeah, let's, if there's no more, I'm not sure, have we moved this thing? We have, it has been moved, right?
1 second.
Okay, so let's have the roll call vote.
Councilmember Claire,
Yay.
Councilmember Romack,
Yay.
Councilmember Bernard Watson,
Yes,
Councilmember Donahue,
Yay.
Councilmember James,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faith,
Aye.
Mayor Schuff.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay, adopted. Moving on then to introduction of ordinance 24-285 for ambulatory lift assist. Mr. Williams.
Mayor and Council, first of all, I'd like to thank Joe for bringing this ordinance to our attention. He discussed this with other legal experts. As you know, we have issues with certain businesses in the city with lift assist. Actually, the Vice Mayor asked about this tonight when Goodyear Fire was here speaking. What this ordinance does is it makes it that for every lift assist at assisted living facilities, which of course there are 2 in the community, if the people are not transported, it's a $500 charge per lift assist. Again, this is only for assisted living facilities. This wouldn't apply to private residences, et cetera. But if someone is transported, there is no charge. But again, if the EMS staff goes out and has to lift the resident and they're not transported, it would be a $500 charge per resident. The idea being here is these businesses should have employees that can do the lifting. It shouldn't be the fire department's job to go out and lift someone that doesn't need to be transported. If they need to be transported, that's EMS's job, and that's great. That's what they're here for. But if they don't need to be transported, EMS shouldn't be involved. It's really that simple. It wouldn't generate that much money. You see the numbers there. It would generate between $20,000-$30,000 a year based off current numbers for lift assists that aren't transported. But the idea here again is to have these businesses take care of these issues themselves, because it's not the fire department's job to have to do that. And you'll see if you look at the fire department's numbers, they break that out. It's actually interesting here in that most cities, EMS service is about 70% of the fire department's business. Here we're at 85. So we're a lot more of our fire department business here is EMS calls than it is fire calls. So that's probably representative of your city demographics too. So anyway, but again, that's what this ordinance does. Again, this is for first reading only, and it would put in a $500 charge per person for lift assists that are not transported.
Comments?
So we, the city, would hear back from the fire department and then we in fact send them a bill.
We would send the business a bill, yes, ma'am.
The citizen?
The business.
No, ma'am.
So Loma or Hacienda, oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, ooh, baby. Anyway,
Only for those businesses.
okay, so this is our way of training them to do their own lifting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. From the information we got today from the fire department, this is a drop in the bucket, but it's, I think, proceeding in the right direction. If you look at the charts that were given to us earlier from the fire department, on a per 1,000 resident basis, our use for these kind of calls is over 5 times Goodyear's usage for these calls. We have a huge concentration based upon our population. Is this going to make a big dent? We look at the number, the information that was given to us today. Maybe there's a half a dozen calls, you know, that might have fallen into this. But maybe it'll force them to rethink how they're processing stuff, maybe think ahead and figure out some other way to avoid this expense, and maybe to even dig a little deeper into all the other calls that we get from these two organizations. I have struggled with this for years because we're underwriting their business plan, and I don't agree with that. And the cost that you're suggesting is $500 per call. Our true cost is over $1,000 per call, looking at what we pay and how many calls for assist for EMS that we get on a yearly basis. So 500 seems probably a good semi-fair place to start with it. But, and I would hope it would at least give these two businesses some incentive to look at their in-house policies and maybe provide more services to their patients and less services that the citizens are paying.
Councilman James.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was really the comment I wanted to make was, where did the $500 come up? We just, that exactly.
No, I looked at it and I looked at other municipalities throughout the country. We really don't have any other municipalities in Arizona that are implementing this yet. This came about from a conversation I had with the chief deputy for the AG's office at the Arizona City Attorney's Conference in May, and said that this was a substantial issue for the Attorney General, and she wanted to make sure that these types of costs aren't being pushed back on communities and things. And we talked about it, and he referenced a couple locations that I was able to use for looking at this type of ordinance. And coming up with the number, again, it wasn't done with trying to figure out what our hard costs were compared to, you know, services and things like that, but knew that 500 was very reasonable, that our costs were going to be most likely in excess of that if you've got 2 trucks, 4 individuals responding to a call for that whatever period of time that is. But to start it off on a point where it's reasonable, and if it has the impact that it's intended to have, and we stop getting these calls, then that works. If it doesn't, and we continue to get these calls, then we can look at adjusting that upwards to make it to the point where they're not going to call for these types of lists. And if council wants to, we can amend that amount through at the initial part of this ordinance as well. This is the introduction. If you want, we can go back and look and pull together the hard numbers of what the actual estimated cost would be for a time involved in a lift assist.
Yeah, I think I looked at it more down the line of, I'll just ballpark a number here. So if the cost of the city is $1,000 every time we lift assist, and we're only going to charge back the business, I think that it's reasonable to make that equitable, to say $1,000. If it's cost us $1,000, you're paying that cost because it should we split, if they have 13 non-lifts, and so we're going to split the bill with them 6,500, we're going to fit 6,500 and they're going to pay us, I just think that, I don't think 500 is impactful enough. I think 1,000 per, and that would be my only suggestion or recommendation.
Hey, go ahead. Mr. Vice Mayor.
I don't want this to be a revenue tool. That's not the intent or purpose of this ordinance. And trying to figure out, I said the $1,000 a cost, it's costing us, we've got fixed costs and variable costs, and I don't know what the difference between all this may be. We don't know how this is all we're getting, I presume, hit on a constant basis, a yearly basis with increased expenses from fire and from police. based upon increases in wages and equipment and gas and everything else that goes on. So I mean, it's the $500 makes me happy as a start to see what happens with this. Because the intent is not to be punitive and not to be a revenue generator, just to get their attention to try to change their policies and their staffing and whatever it may be, to give better services to their citizens and not call out all the equipment in the fire departments and everybody else every time somebody sees somebody laying there and they don't know what to do because they don't have anybody on staff who's qualified to make a judgment. You know, we've kind of run into this for a long time. They have the quality of the people in the fire truck is far better, it seems, than anybody who's working down there at certain points. And it seemed to me that's not the way that business should be operated. I'm not telling them how to operate it, but you would think there would be somebody on staff who would have the competency to at least approach the level of skill of those on the fire truck. And they don't do it. It's a matter of economics. Hopefully this economics will encourage them to get the quality of persons on staff, on site for those citizens and not depend on the government to provide that service. And that's kind of my take on it.
And I think from what I found is that some of it is that they don't want to do it because of liability purposes. You know, if something happens as they're lifting that person, you know, so I think there are certain entities or businesses that encourage their employees to use EMS as opposed to doing it the way that they should be doing it. They're providing that service. And again, it's the fee amount it's a discouragement. It's say, you know, this is not the appropriate use for an EMS call. In addition to that, you're taking away those individuals from being able to respond to any other emergencies at the time because they're on this call for a lift assist.
I would hope they would take that money instead of paying us and put it into personnel.
Yeah, just
Somebody with skill.
a couple of comments before we go very much further. When the fire truck goes and makes a call to any call, the fact that that call is being made for 90% or 95% of the cost of that average call, we don't see any cost to that. So we're not paying for every call for the most part. We do pay for a dispatch fee through 911. There's a couple of fees that we pay that are, you know, $5 a dispatch or whatever. I mean, they're miscellaneous small fees, but for the most part, we do not bear any additional cost, whether we have an additional fire truck run or not. If we have 40 calls a month, we pay the same amount as if we have 100 calls a month. So we don't really have an expense to cover because of these lifts. The lifting problem and that issue is an issue if we go forward and Goodyear comes back and says, well, you're using so many calls off of this engine company that now the ratio of how much we pay for that engine and how much they pay for the engine has gotten skewed. So I think the original ratio was about 1/3. So we pay about 1/3 of the cost of that engine company. And if now we're using 40% of that engine company's capacity, at some point, the city of Goodyear may come back and want to renegotiate. On the rate. And at the point they do that, then we can say, well, now we've got extra costs. And that concept is built into the La Loma development agreement, so that if La Loma develops and if they end up generating, because of their clientele, a lot more calls, and if those calls cost us to change our overall cost structure on the fire department, then La Loma is going to pay for a portion or all of that cost. So we've worked on that already. This concept I think it's an interesting idea, but it's premature for us to be looking at it as an ordinance because there's a lot of questions we need to answer first. First question is, how is the city of Goodyear going to react to us charging for this individual service, charging a fee like this? So every time that their guys do a lift, we get paid, the city, we get money back. I'm just not sure that the city may not mind at all. The city manager doesn't matter to us at all. Fire chief, maybe it doesn't matter to the fire chief, but it also could matter. Because philosophically, the fire department, I think, if I look at the fire department, I wouldn't be surprised if the fire chief looked at the fire department as being a service that we owe as a city, we owe to our residents. And this is a service that the residents need, whether because the business isn't doing its job or not, they need to get lifted off the floor. And, it might take 4 firefighters to get somebody off the floor as opposed to, 2 staff that are there to, to service other needs. So I just, I think we need to do some investigation within what is going to be the attitude at the city of Goodyear with the city and with the fire department people themselves. Whether they would look at this as being something that's acceptable. And if it is acceptable, then we needed to look at what we're going to do with the money. And I don't think we should take the money back into our general fund. I would absolutely never support that because we're not paying any extra costs because of this lift. So if there's something, maybe there's a program within the Goodyear Fire Department that we can contribute this money to. And they can use it down there for something that, that would benefit the community as a whole. Maybe there's some other thing we can do with it. I don't know what we should do with it, but I don't think we should take it in as a general fund, reimbursement. Because when we first had this conversation about this problem, one of the things I said, and I still believe, is that as a city, we took on the responsibility of providing fire and emergency services, and it is our responsibility to provide this service to all of our residents, whether they happen to be young or old. And if the old person needs to get picked up, they need to get picked up. And I think that's just our responsibility. So I'm not comfortable moving this even into introduction until a lot of other questions are looked at and we really analyze this thing a lot more deeply. It's a very simple ordinance, but it could have significant unintended consequences. So
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking, what about the data collection? So Goodyear Fire and River let La Loma and Hacienda know every month like they let us know? Probably not. And out of all. They do?
They do.
And so then somebody on our staff has to collect that and then charge them and keep track of that every single month. And I don't know. I mean, that to me.
There are ongoing programs, and I can't tell you it's every month, but it's certainly every couple months, where the fire department works with both of these businesses to review what produced the call and why could, if it isn't a transport, why did you have to call us? So they're working on it.
Yeah, they've been working on it a long time. Yeah.
They have been several years.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets to what I was going to say as well. I think you've identified one of the major problems is we just don't have the level of training available to triage, which is what they're really doing because of fall happens.
It's very simple. They cannot lift these people off the floor.
Right.
I mean, it isn't triage. The person's on the floor and the people who are there cannot physically lift them off the floor. I mean, that's what this is all about.
Having done that with my mother multiple times, I'm telling you, it's difficult, but 2 people can lift a person without a problem if you do it right.
Well, maybe they need training. I'm just saying, but
that's
that simple.
But the other, I would disagree with you on the triage because falls don't just happen because most of them aren't just for no reason at all. It could be a health issue that's not been identified. And I think those are the metrics that we need to be seeing. Is the fall because there was a rug? Is the fall because someone who normally has a walker was moving without a walker? Or is it because someone who's never had high blood pressure now has high blood pressure?
I don't think the city is going to get involved in managing these people's business.
No, I don't think so either, but I think.
That's what that would be all about. The question is, we don't have an extra cost because of this lift. we're worried in the future we may have an extra cost. But we don't have one today, so if we don't have one today, it's not appropriate to have this charge. But if you want, if the council, majority council wants the charge, then I'm saying at least don't take it into our general fund. Do something, with it that benefits something.
Training.
But, my preference would be, this is a good conversation to have had, but we should postpone any action on it until we think it through a lot more carefully.
I would like to see us communicate more with these nursing homes or the homes and find out what's going on.
Well, we can direct staff to do that, although the fire department has been doing that. What is your pleasure with this ordinance? Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
All right, is there a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. So that complete,
Comment?
yes, go right ahead.
I agree with you 100% not to take this money and put it in the general fund. Use it for some kind of program to help people that are typically subject to these falls or to the fire department,
Again,
something like that.
I'm
It's
happy
not-
the staff does that,
but
works with the
the-
city, works with Goodyear and works with the fire department and then comes up with some use. I mean,
The problem we're gonna run into that we're trying to short circuit is that our percentage of calls versus the percentage of Goodyear calls using that unit are gonna be reevaluated by Goodyear at some point, and our costs could go up significantly.
right, and if they
we're
do,
trying to.
then we need to adopt it for sure. If we have an additional cost because of something where they're using the service in a way that's unreasonable, then I would support having a charge like this. We just don't have that today. We don't have it today, and we haven't checked. I really am concerned that we need to run this by Goodyear because it's Goodyear's fire truck that's doing this. And we need to make sure that they support the concept.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, and then think about what you're gonna use this money for. So all this stuff needs to be done and then bring this back if you wanna bring it back.
That money can be arbitraged and the city can figure it out at some later point. But we need to figure out a way. Our calls went from somewhere around 800 to over 900 last year. Okay, that is a significant increase of the way things are going.
Our population went up too.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
The population went up significantly.
Yes.
So
I'd like to call a question on this.
there is no question because there's no second.
Well, somehow we got to stop this discussion.
We will, Councilman. Hold on.
Mayor, and with the mayor's concern, I mean, if someone wants to make a motion to table the item to a date specific, for example, 2 months to give us time to look into.
I don't think it's been moved to introduce and then the motion failed. So the item, we're done with this business item, I think. I've allowed the vice mayor to make a few more comments on it, but I think the item's done. We don't need to do anything more than we just are not going to introduce this at this point.
Okay.
I agree with this analysis.
So I think staff understands the council's feeling on this and
Yes,
you
sir.
can go back and, work on this again and bring it back. I would suggest maybe a work study session would be more appropriate for it before you bring it as an ordinance.
Be glad to.
Okay, all right. That takes us to the point for executive sessions. We do want to have an executive session, I understand, correct?
Yes, sir.
Under items, tell me the items so we can get it in the record. Mr. Estes, do you know?
Items A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
We've got 4.
We're not going to be selective on this. We're going to go into executive
So
session.
B for discussion with
11,
regard to.
11, A, B, C, and D. Is there a motion to go into executive session on all the items? Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're going into executive session. Have invited council members elect Allen and Frazier to join us so that you'll understand the background of what we're talking about.
See you next month. Bring your hard hats.
Oh, come on, you're gonna be there to help us. The next session is adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we gotta wait. We gotta get open to the public first.
It gives that time.
Can't make the motion.
Start everybody.
Show up the vote.
Well, because it's all
You saw the
recorded.
email I responded to on the,
Done at $43,000, yes.
Somebody will come in here and say, oh, not even.
You kidding me? No.
I don't have
Like you said, the font.
You have one, right?
Yeah.
We'll sit in the door now for a month, get charged the day of the council meeting, get the agenda.
Don't you think you can show us the findings? when we send it
What
back?
happened to my old one?
We're ready? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.